I'm Ryan Walters, and I am currently based out of Portland, Oregon. I work as a freelance cinematographer. My work has taken me around the world on various productions, whether it's from feature films to documentaries. I've worked on small industrial and promotional videos. I've shot both local and regional commercials, and worked on a couple TV shows. Many times when I'm out scouting a location, it's a lot quicker and easier to whip out my meter and take scene readings of that location than it is to set up a camera. So just having a meter there when I'm out scouting a potential location provides a lot more flexibility than lugging an entire camera system around with me. Secondly, using a properly calibrated meter provides repeatability, and it also helps in my communication with the other crew members. If I know I want to place a value at a specific place, I can tell my gaffer, I want that light gives me X number of foot candles at a given distance, and he knows what I want, and he can quickly deliver that to me rather than me telling him a general feeling and then us noodling around until we get it honed in. And also, if we need to go back and shoot a scene later on, if I have metered the scene and I know where I've placed exposures and where lights fall, when we go back to shoot that at a different day, I can know that the exposures are going to match because I have a reference to go by. And finally, the last advantage of having a meter is your exposure is going to be. I can measure the scene illumination and know that the values are placed within the dynamic range of the medium I'm using. And if there's a value that falls outside that, I know that before we get into it. Again, going back to the highlights, if I know my highlights are falling out of the range of my format, I can make sure that I can push it back in using the meters. Well, one of the biggest challenges I face when lighting a scene, specifically for video, is making sure that the dynamic range of the scene falls within the dynamic range of the format that I'm shooting on. Video has a pretty limited dynamic range, as well as it doesn't handle highlights very well. And so I've got to take into account my total range as well as where my highlights are going to fall while I'm lighting. This is in stark contrast to film, where you'll have a wide dynamic range, and many times you can have 5 to 7 stops over exposure. In the video world, you're lucky to get 2 to 3 stops of overexposure. And many times, the overexposure doesn't roll off very well. In film, you get a nice organic roll off into the highlights, whereas video, once you're clipped, and there's no bringing back any of that detail. So that's usually the biggest struggle is making sure that the scene that I've illuminated falls well within the exposure range. One of the conveniences of video is that what you see is what you get. There are many tools that manufacturers have built into the cameras that make the process even easier. Features such as zebras or histograms or other such measuring devices. They're great at helping you guide the exposure, and that coupled with the immediacy of seeing your scene exposed is very helpful, and it means that many times the exposure becomes, it looks good, so let's shoot it. And while that may work for the production, it doesn't produce repeatable results. Calibrating the red one, I made sure to get a hold of the latest test chart from Sekonic, which is version 2, which made the whole process a lot easier. Basically set the camera up with a given lens and shot the test chart at 3 different exposures, and for every ISO going through the red setup there, and then processed the footage through the Sekonic software, which ends up calibrating your meter as well as giving you the given dynamic range and exposures you need for your meter. When you're using whatever video format, or even film format for that matter, the angle of shutter is going to either increase or decrease your exposure values. And so you want to make sure that you're, when you're doing your testing, that you're doing your testing under the situations that you'll be filming under. As far as the video side of technology goes, it continues to increase leaps and bounds. In shooting with the red, I can get in just over 9 stops of dynamic range, which is a huge leap as far as video is concerned. And many times, that's limited to 4 to 5 stops. So you have to be very selective of what exposures you use, and also what lighting instruments you can get away with. As technology grows and the dynamic range continues to increase, it opens up all kinds of new possibilities, especially for documentaries and other situations where you have to be more minimalistic in your lighting, and you have to work with more available light. Having that extra dynamic range just allows you to be more flexible with some of the productions that you really need that flexibility in.